Okay, so we are doing another shiur from the Kuntress, and this is Hilchos Avodah Zarah. And the reason we're doing Hilchos Avodah Zarah is because Rambam Yomi started Hilchos Avodah Zarah and Hilchos Avodah Zarah today, and I thought it would be a timely thing to do, especially now we have this new Yomi group. My quick position on Yomi, by the way, is that I think that there are lots of lovely Yomi programs, but I think the problem is sustainability. So if you could sustain it, then it's very good to do. My own success in Rambam Yomi was not firmly established until I made my own Yomi program. And the Yomi program was every day after Shachris or after Mincha, not both. I would do either 2 halachos, a half a parak, or a whole parak. And I did not go in order. And it was just, I had to be involved in Rambam at one of those 3 levels, and what would happen is because I gave myself that flexibility and I didn't have any timeline, then I was able to get done like many times I would be like, okay, I only have time for 2 halachos, and then I would get interested in read half the parak, or I would do half the parak and I'm like, oh, the parak's short, and I would do the rest of it. And it ended up just learning me a lot of Rambam, and the only disadvantage of that, not the only disadvantage. Oh, hold on just a second. That is, hold on. Hello?
Is that what he called me?
Yes. I was just saying that so the advantage of doing the Yomi program is you get to be involved doing it with other people and learning the same thing. So I think this is a good in-between option, that if you want to be doing Rambam Yomi without the pressure of doing all of it, then at least, come up with some sort of custom program for yourself where you do one halacha, or you follow the chat or whatever, So I think it's a good thing to do. Okay. So Hilchos Avodah Zarah and Chukos Aggoyim. The first source cited in the Kuntress is the Sefer Mitzvot, so I figure we should read through that. Okay, so this actually, before we do that, we should look at where it appears in the list. Okay, if you had to guess in the Los Ases, where would you guess it appears in terms of the 365?
Pretty high up.
Pretty high up. Okay, that's a good guess. Okay, so if you look at the list, yeah, Los Ases out of the 613, one for each day of the year.
Yeah.
So you starts off with lo yelecha, right? Shlo la'alos b'machshavah she'yesham Eloah zulas Hashem, not to bring to mind that there exists a God other than Hashem. Then you've got all the Avodah Zarah things, and it is number 30. Okay, yeah, I do want to read through them later on, but it's number 30 right here. Okay, we'll have to look at the list later on. All right, so the Los Aseh says hamitzvah hamashlima shloshim. That's just his lashon that he uses when you get to a round number. Hashara shuus harnu milalechas beikvus haklifrim umilin hog b'min hagosam. So it's the prohibition of following in the footsteps of the heretics and conducting ourselves in line with their behavior. Vafilu b'malbushehem uknosehem b'ulamehem, even in their dress and in their gatherings, in their halls. Okay, he'll explain what that is later. That's what God meant when he said, don't walk in the statutes of the nations that I'm sending out before you. This law is repeated in the statement, don't follow their statutes. Okay. Uva Pirush, and the Torah Peh comes and says, Lo marti ela b'chukim hachakukim lahem. I'm only talking about the laws that were enacted or engraved for them and for their fathers. What was it funny? Yes, it is a funny word. Okay. So it means don't follow their ceremonies, their rituals, their practices. These are all hard words to translate. But things that are enacted for them. Terteaos, like theaters. Kerkasaos, circuses, and then this one I had to look up. Istatrios is arenas. Okay, don't go on arena. Yeah, these are the types of halls. So back then it wasn't circuses like elephants, it was like elephant gods, or I don't know exactly what it was, but it was like Avodah Zarah stuff, okay, that they did in these places. Rabbi Meir Omer Elu Darche Ha'imorish, what was it? So Rabbi Meir says these are the ways of the Amorites that were listed by the Chachamim, and they list a whole bunch of them. The most famous one around these parts is the wearing the red string, right? That's the these things that they actually did back then. Okay, Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira Omer Shalot Tinachor Avodah Zarah people, yeah. Shalot Tinchor Tinachor V'lo Tegalo Tzitzis V'lo V'shalot Tesaper Kumi. These are all hairstyles, okay, that you're not. It doesn't talk about the tzitzis on your garments growing Yeah,
that's the puzzle. From somewhere.
So mohawk is one of them. There's a tonsure.
Oh, like the friars?
Yeah, tonsure hairstyle. I think
that's like what the Catholic priests wear.
Yeah, these guys.
Oh my.
Right, yeah, like shaving off the middle part. Yeah, right. Such a weird hairstyle. Yeah, I don't want to do it anyway. Yeah,
I guess it's meaning.
yeah, right. And then I think mohawks is another one. I think
that would apply today.
yeah, that would apply today. What was that?
The reverse mohawk.
So
we just saw.
okay, so we'll have to check when we see in the Rambam.
Is that like just wouldn't you already know that from Peos, or is that even if like, oh yeah, sure, you're not even allowed to do it with while keeping it?
So peos is a separate isser, separate los aseh, destroying the corners of the head, and that you'd be over even if you kept all the rest of your hair. This one is specific hairstyles of the Avodah Zarah, and so that's one of them. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if there's machlokas also. I think there's one more also where you leave the front. But you shave everything else. Yeah. All right. Anyway, but right now we're on a bird's eye level, because remember the explanation in the Sefer Mitzvos is just giving you an idea of what the name of the mitzvah refers to, not going to the halachos. But also davar me'elu chayav malchus, and if you do one of these things, you get malchus. There's another pasuk that says, "Be careful for yourselves lest you be ensnared by them." Pen belotase, tinakish achreim shema tidami lahem v'tase kamaseim. So it says, Hishamir is a lotase, pen is another lotase. I don't know what that means. Lest you be ensnared after them is that you come to resemble them in their actions. V'helecha lamokesh, and there will be a snare for you. Ella tomar, you should shlo tomar, you should not say, hoyel v'hin yotzin ba'argaman, ani ete ba'argaman. They go out in wearing purple wool, scarlet, whatever argaman is. Hoyel v'hin yotzin, they go out wearing this, I'll go out wearing this. Hoyel v'hin yotzin betalusin, af ani ete betalusin, v'hu min mimini hatafshi tatzava. It's a type of military garb. They go out wearing that, I'll go out wearing that. Says Navi, all of those who wear the garments of non-Jews, non-Jews, kolzet harchaka mehem u'ginui l'chol min hagosehem v'afilu b'malbush. All of these are to distance ourselves from them and to degrade their actions, even in dress. Okay, so that's the mitzvah, yeah.
Nachri, is it generally non-Jews, or is it specifically Avodah Zarah?
I think Nachri, it's used, depending on different contexts, is used in different ways. Yeah, it means stranger. Right, stranger man, yes. Xeno. But I don't know offhand in the Rambam.
Especially since like a Zara itself is like also like
right, but Zar you don't right. Zar is often more used not in terms of Bnei Israel versus other nations. I don't think. It can be, but it's not. Like we call like a non-Kohen.
You don't call a person, right? I'm saying, but because I figured since it's interesting that one word released.
Oh, because of Zar and Avodah Zarah and Nachri. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Okay. So let's see the Kuntress, what he says. Ayin sefer mitzvos lo saseh. Check. Shapirat haramam iser chukos aggoim b'shlosha inyanim. So the Rambam specifies the iser of chukos aggoim in three areas. Okay, se'ar, hair, malbush, clothing, ubinyan, and buildings. Right, the circuses and such. V'chein isa b'hilchos chukos aggoim perak yud aleph halacha aleph. So let's read that. Yud aleph. In holchin b'chukos hagoyim v'lo midamin lahen. We may not follow the statutes of the goyim and not resemble them. Lo b'malbush, not in clothing, v'lo b'se'ar, and not in hair, dependent other things like that. Shnemar, as it says, v'lo selchu b'chukos hagoy, v'nemar b'chukos ehem lo seilechu, v'nemar hisham lecha pentinachish akreim. So all three, he quotes the same three pesukim. Hakol b'inyan echad u'mazir. It's all warning us about one thing: shlo yidami lahen, that we shouldn't resemble them. Ella, and there's a cool statement here. Yihi ha'Yisraeli moved al behem v'yadu b'malbush. Rather, the Israelites should be separate from them and known in his garment and in his other actions, just like he is separate from him in his knowledge and in his character traits. Okay, so your external garment should reflect your Israelite status. Also, it says, I shall separate you from the people. Lo yubosh kamabush. Don't dress in the garments that are unique to them. Don't grow out the fringes of your hair like they grow out the fringes of their hair. See, it's the mohawk. Don't shave the sides and leave the hair in the middle, right? Kamoshem Osim, like they do. V'zehu Nikra Bluris. This is called the Bluris. All right, that's the, I guess, I don't know what language that is. Loigalech haser mikneged panav me'ozen l'ozen v'yenech hapera mila'achorav. I got it backwards. Don't shave the hair opposite your face from ear to ear and leave the hair that's behind in the way that they do. Like
that. You know, like ponytail thing. He's that. It's like all he has.
I get, but he didn't shave the front though, right? He's just kind of baldish.
So is that okay? You're bald and you just kind of like you're like it's like.
I think they deal with these questions. Yeah, I haven't been through these halachos in a while. Don't build places like their palaces, their temples of Avodah Zarah, in order that people she comes with him Rami, so that people enter like them. Anyone who does these things or any one of them gets malchus. So three things: hair, garments, and buildings. Okay, right. Which I don't know if that I should have asked you guys what you thought Hilchos Avodah was before I read this, but I definitely would not. It wouldn't register. Oh, the three categories, obviously. You know, like yeah. Okay.
Okay.
I thought it was hair, like applying to them.
Applying to them. So, like what? So I mean, it is chukim that applies to them from their own religions.
Right.
Right. Yeah.
For us not to do that.
Right. The Isser, there's two. Yeah, that's a good clarification point. There's the chukos aggoyim that they do,
right,
and there's the los aseh for us to emulate the chukos aggoyim or to practice the chukos aggoyim. Yeah.
The building is so. What is it? You're not supposed to go into the building.
He says to not build that.
Yeah.
He says not to build that.
Build
right.
What? Like temples? Like,
yeah. If you build one of these types of structures, then which I don't know halachically what the parameters are of that. Like if I build a Cirque du Soleil circus tent. Like just because we call it circuit, I don't think that that's over the Isser. But if I build an actual church, that's like a separate thing. But this is like building an Avodah Zarah building. Right. I don't know what we have in modern day like religions that is similar to what role those played back then. Maybe
I'm imagining this would extend to things that are not exactly Avodah Zarah per se, but like makom. Like,
so that's what he's saying. You notice, like well, so that's the thing. He says, so that many should enter. So I don't know if it was for those other footnotes here. So that's the thing I'm not sure about. I got to look into that some more. Yeah, fine.
Yeah, I was wondering also, like, can you scroll down to the opinion?
Yeah.
Yeah. So would that be like if we were to make a shul that looks like it blends into the other kind of. So he says
right.
Right.
So it's very unclear with the garment and the hairstyle. It seems like it's literally resembling them, right? Mm-hmm. But here he talks about it in functional ways. Right. So like like there's what do you call like the Greek columns that people have in their houses are definitely from like Avodah Zarah structures, but or like
uniquely from Avodah Zarah?
Yeah, I was thinking also.
Well, I mean, they were. I don't even know. I don't even know if
maybe they had them in like the palaces.
Right.
Before,
I'm not sure. Yeah. Yeah. So this I'd have to look into.
Also, some functions, like a church, there's not something really unique designed to the church that like you could build a shul that would function as a church.
Well, that's the thing.
Or to be able.
That's the thing. Nowadays, yes, but back then, I don't know if there were specific forms.
Right. That's what I'm saying. I don't know.
And yeah.
All I know is the example of that there is something today.
Right. All right. So I'll bleed that. I'll look into this more. But from a sheer perspective, let's see what his question is. V'yesh lishol, shemikim shestam hakasuv sasam hakasuv the iser v'lo selchu b'chukos hagoy. Since the pasuk was general in writing the prohibition, don't follow the statutes of the people of the nations. Where do we learn that the Isser is about these three things, Davka? Okay, the basic question. Okay, this next question I like, and we're going to do some actual Bekius here.
That's good. I like that question.
What?
I like that.
Yeah, very simple. Okay, this next one is a great question. Hashem hamaduyak lehilchos elu hu hilchos avodah zarah v'chukos hagoyim. So the precise name for these halachos is not like the ignorant masses say hilchos avodah zarah. It's Hilchos Avodah Zarah וחוקות הגוים. And if you'll notice, I mean, I'm not the only one who does this, but like I'm trying to be makpid to use the full title of every halacha section in the Rambam, because the Rambam titled them so you can get to know the categories of Torah. So he didn't just call it Hilchos Avodah Zarah, he called it Hilchos Avodah Zarah וחוקות הגוים. Okay. The implication is that there's two sections in these halachos. Okay, right? So like Tefilah and Birkos Kohanim. Now we're going to do some Bekius. We're going to read through the list. Okay, we're gonna do it fast. Okay, try not to get bogged down. There's 51 mitzvos. 2 mitzvos to say, 2 mitzvos to say, v'tesha of 40 mitzvos lo saseh, and 49 mitzvos lo saseh. Zehu pratan. Okay, and these are they. Okay, and this is the one that I know I've told you about the memory palace technique that I used to use to memorize all the mitzvos in order in the Mishnah Torah. So for this one, so I used the old YBT building, and I had each room represent one of the 14 books of the Mishnah Torah, and then I remember the mitzvahs around each one. So this was the main base midrash, and what I did is I broke them up into categories where different people learned, like Rabbi Gober and like Mark Solomon learned over there, and like Rabbi Aronson and over there, they learned over there, and I did clusters based on each of these things. So it's worth trying if you can. I can teach you the memory palace technique, and you'll learn all of these like within 10 minutes, but it's worthwhile. I've been wanting to get back to like memorizing all of the, yes, it's good. Yeah, but this is a good one to test it out on because it feels like impossible to do. But here we go. 1, shalol fanos afar avodah zarah, not to turn after avodah zarah. 2, shalol asur afar hirhur halevu iyas, not to stray after the musings of the heart and the sight of the eyes. So that's what we say in Kriya Shema. 3, shalol gadef, not to commit blasphemy. 4, shalol lavod osa kederech avodasa, not to worship avodah zarah in the manner of its worship. 5, shalol yishtachav elah, not to bow down to it. 6, shalol lasos pesal la'atzmo, not to make an engraved image for yourself. 7, shalol lasos pesal afilu l'cherim, not to make an engraved image even for others. 8, shalol lasos tsurus afilu l'noi, not to make graven images or protruding images even for aesthetic purposes. 9, shalol lahadiach acherim achareha, not to cause others to stray after avodah zarah. That's ir hanidachas. 10, here's one of the mitzvos I say, lisrof ir hanidachas, to burn an ir hanidachas, which Chazal say, lo hayv lo never happened, never will happen. 11, shlo livnosa, not to build it up. That's one of the mitzvos that say it never happened, like the Ben Sora Moreh.
Why will it never happen?
Because the parameters are very, very strict. And so to the statistically, the likelihood of it actually coming into being, very unlikely. Yeah. 11, shlo livnosa, not to build it up again after destroying it. 12, shlo lehanos mikol mamona, not to derive pleasure from any of its property. 13, shlo lahasis yachid la'avda, not to entice even one person to worship avodah zarah. 14, shlo lehov hamesis, not to love the mesis, to the enticer. 15, shelo la'azov sinaso, not to abandon hating the mesis. Okay, 16, shelo lahatil, not to save the mesis. 17, shelo lilmod alav lolamed alav zchus, not to make an argument in favor of the vindication of the mesis. 18, shelo yimanea milolamed alav chova, not to refrain from giving an argument in his liability. All about the mesis, a lot of mesis ones.
To actively argue against it.
So yeah, well, you are chayav to.
Right, the negative.
Sorry. You are prohibited for giving an argument in his favor, and you are prohibited from holding back an argument in his liability. Right. 19, shlo lehisnabe b'shma, not to prophesy in its name, the name of avodah zarah. 20, shlo lichmo min hamisnabe b'shma, not to obey or listen to someone who prophesies in his name. 21, shlo lehisnabe b'sheker, not to prophesy falsely, afilu b'shem Hashem, even in the name of Hashem, which is strange that that's not in Hilchos Torah, because that's where he talks about obeying a navi emes. And I can understand putting the avodah zarah one here, but the one that's being misnabe b'shem Hashem b'sheker, it's interesting that that's here. 22, shlo lagur meharigas navi sheker, I'm laughing there. Not to be intimidated or fearful against killing the navi sheker. David Rindy was once at a singles event, and they went around saying, "What's your favorite mitzvah?" So he said this one, not to be afraid of killing the navi sheker. Well, you gotta start the conversations going here, Yeah, but that was a bold move. All right, 23. Not to take an oath in the name of avodah zarah. 24. Not to make an oath, which is a weird type of sorcery thingy involving the talking armpit, skull, sleeping, cemetery ritual, deep voice. 25. Yidoni, not to make Yidoni, which is the bird bone talking prophecy avodah zarah thing. Don't we know? 26, not to pass your children over molech, which is the fire of avodah zarah. You're not really burning them, you're throwing them through. Yeah.
Where do they specify?
Yeah, so these are the three that the Torah specifies. Ovidoni and then molech were specific avodah zarahs. If you want to talk to Johnny, my brother, who went to Carthage, I believe, which was the ancient, where these actual Amorites and Canaan were, and saw all these children's graveyards of people who sacrificed the children to. I think he said it was
ancient graveyards.
Ancient graveyards, yeah. 27, shelo lahaki machshavah, not to set up Avodah Zarah stone. I don't know the best way to translate machshavah, column. I don't know. 25, shelo lishtachavos al evan maskis, not to bow down on hewn stone. That's another specific Avodah Zarah practice. 29, shelo lita asher, not to plant an Avodah Zarah tree. 30, here's the only other mitzvah to say, shelo abid Avodah Zarah b'chol hanasa b'shvila, to destroy Avodah Zarah and everything made because of it. 31, shelo lechanos b'Avodah Zarah b'chol mashamsheha, not to derive benefit from Avodah Zarah or any of its accoutrements. 32, shelo lechanos b'tzipuye neva, not to derive benefit from the adornment of that which is worshipped. 33, shelo lichros bris l'Avodah Zarah, not to seal a covenant with Avodah Zarah. 34, shelo lachon aleim, not to have really mercy, but not to be gracious unto them. 35, shelo yeshvu ba'artenu, not to let them live in our land. 36, shelo lihidamus b'min hagosam u'mabusham, right? Not to be resemble their minhagim and their dress. What's weird about that formulation, by the way?
There's no building.
Yeah, right. Is either you should mention all three, right?
Oh yeah.
Or just do the general, right? Because he singles out clothing, right? Minhagam and malbusham.
It kind of gives me a hint about what he meant earlier, though, by binyan and then.
Yeah. Oh, because why?
Meaning that one's only so far as to qualify, like if it's that's what it means a building is if it allows for these two things.
Yeah.
Then therefore an binyan by extension, and I guess obviously would be okay, fine. That's just to limit, like it's not just any building. We're clarifying, like it's got to be in this.
Okay, right. I mean, definitely it has to do the being medamit to the minhagim, if that's going to fit in here, and that would also maybe answer the optics question versus the function question. 37, shelo l'nachesh, not to read omens. 38, shelo liksom, not to go into a trance and prophesy the future. 30, that's the kosim ksamim, is the practice to get yourself into a trance to like see the future.
Is it a real thing?
Rambam doesn't hold that any of them are real. He holds that it's all fake. But if you do it, then it's aser. 39, shelo la'onin, not to, this one's two of them. It's not to practice astrology or lucky times or unlucky times, and then also not to do magic, that's sleight of hand, but like with the convincing people that it's real. 40, shelo lach borchaver, not to say incantations, not to say incantations. 41, shelo lidrosh elamesim, not to inquire of the dead. 42, shelo lishol ba'ov, not to inquire of the ov, which we were introduced to before. 43, shelo lishol b'idoni, not to inquire of b'idoni. Funny, he separates the two. There's making them, and then there's inquiring of them. 44, shelo lachashev, not to do sorcery.
You're a lot of.
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
Wasn't there a third one in that other category? There's b'idoni, and then there was.
Well, molech is that one you don't inquire. Yeah, you just pass on the fire. 44, shelo lachashev, not to do sorcery. 45, shelo lahakif pe'as harosh, not to round off the corners of the head. 46, shelo lahashkis pas hazakan, not to destroy the corner of the beard. 47, shelo ya'ade ish ade isha, not for men, not to wear the adornments of a woman. 48, shelo tade isha ade ish, not for a woman, not to wear the adornments of a man. 49, shelo lichtov ke'aka, not to make a tattoo. 50, shelo hisgoded, not to gash oneself. And then 51, shelo lasos korcha al meis, not to make a bald spot in mourning over the dead. Ubira mitzvos elu prakim elo. And the explanation of these mitzvos is in these prakim. Now, anyone? Yes, very good, right? So you want to guess the question of the Kuntress that he was raising by saying,
Yeah, I mean, so there's 51 mitzvos.
Yeah.
And it's called Avodah Zarah, that's Avodah Zarah, right?
Yeah.
Avodah Zarah, Chukos, aggoim.
Yeah.
There's only one mitzvah. That's the
exactly. So that's the question. He says, the Hilchos Avodah Zarah, Chukos aggoim, ika 51 mitzvos, it's 51 mitzvos, ach rak mitzvah achas mehen hi Chukos aggoim. There's only one mitzvah that's Chukos aggoim. As opposed to, let's say, for example,
Nope. Those aren't considered.
Well, he doesn't call it Chukos aggoim, right? I mean, that's the interesting thing.
Right.
Would it be considered Chukos aggoim?
Well, that's going to be part of the question here. But
what was our initial?
It does sound like that, right? So that's going to be part of the answer there.
What's our initial definition so far that we have, like that we're working with?
Not to cut your hair like them, wear garments like them, or make buildings like them.
Okay.
Yeah, but just to compare, for a basis of comparison, we'll finish up after this.
Just how do you translate that word?
Statutes or practices or rituals. Statutes is probably the best one. Statutes of the non-Jews.
Okay.
Hilchos Tefilah Kohanim. There are two mitzvos. Lavod Hashem b'tefila b'chol yom, right? And levarach kohanim es Yisrael b'chol yom. So that, okay, it's a nice split, right? Right. So there's that, Hilchos Shofar with Sukkot v'lulav. Spoiler alert here, is 3 mitzvos. Lishmo kol shofar b'echad b'tishrei, leisha b'sukkah shivas yimei hachag, and litol lulav b'mikdash kol shivas yimei hachag. Right. So like the naming convention is a little weird. Okay, and then the Kuntress continues. He says, "Umakoma b'soch halachos hu shalosh halachos l'chud." The placement of chukos going within these halachos is only 3 halachos. So there's only 3 halachos. Is Perek Aleph halachos Aleph through Gimel, which are about chukos aggoyim. Sorry, Aleph through Gimel. Yeah. So there's only 3 halachos devoted to chukos aggoyim. Which, if these are short, we might as well read them because there's only 3 halachos. We already read the first one. If they're longer, then we'll save them. Yeah, they're very short. See, goy shahaya mistaper mi Yisrael, a goy who was having his hair cut by a Jew. Kivin shigia karv no, yeah, that's what it sounds like. Goy's having his hair cut by the mi Yisrael, right? Sounds like it. I'm just going to double check that and make sure that's not a weird usage of the mem. When a Jew is cutting, he must stop. Oh, because he can't produce it. He must stop within 3 inches, or within when he's close to the blue race. Shlosh esbaos l'chol ruach, 3 in each direction. Shomin es yado. He has to withdraw his hand. So if the non-Jew asks you, the barber, for a mohawk, you have to say like, I can give you a very, very wide mohawk, but I can't. I got to be machmir. And then the last one is Yisrael Shaya Karov Lamalchus, a Jew who is close to the government, to the malchus, the tzarach leishiv lifnei malchim, and he needs to sit in front of their malachim. V'hayalo deny lemi shelo yidam elahen, and it would be a disgrace to anyone who doesn't resemble them. Harizen muter lilbosh b'malbusham, he can dress like they do. L'galech keneged panav k'der shenosim, and he has hair the way that they do, which is very strange. Whenever you see any exceptions in Avodah Zarah, it's weird because usually you think we're so machmir we don't make any exceptions.
Wow, this is Chukos Avodah Zarah.
That's true, but it is in. Yes.
That's
That's what Chaim just said. Good call. Yeah, that's very good. All right, let's read the last sentence. He could have done Avodah Zarah of the Macy's because there were like 6 mitzvahs about Macy's. Yeah. All right. So basic questions, right? So the 2 questions are why these 3 and why call this this title. Okay, so by the way, just to show you how long this year is, it's not super long. We got that page and then that. So I don't know how, it's reasonable we can do it through this week. If not, we'll finish it later. Okay, very good. Thanks for coming.